Good evening. I'd like to call the January 26th Park and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting to order. We'll have introductions starting on my right.
Chris Cook.
Lisa Novak.
Mike Mitchell.
Sean Dashler.
Joyce Gifford.
Doug Neely.
Roger Fowler-Tice.
Phil Lewis.
Phil, are the mics on?
They should be.
Okay.
So we have one vacancy that we'll talk about later this evening, and hopefully Blaine will be with us. In the meantime, we need to do annual election of officers. So that's chair and vice chair. We usually do them separately, and so the floor is open for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Joyce Gifford for chair.
Second.
Any discussion? Any other nominations? Okay, the nominations are closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is yours.
Nominations are open for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Chris. If
I second.
you can't say no, but
I'd be happy to. Thanks.
Nominations are closed. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Chris. I'd like to extend a real welcome to Lisa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
Approval of the minutes from the last meeting. If everybody get a chance to read those as posted online.
I did. I moved to approve as written.
Second.
John approved. Mike second. Any discussion? Any changes?
Chris seconded.
Oh, Chris seconded. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll need to abstain. I was not here.
Okay. You were excused from
I
that.
was excused.
Do we have any citizens' comments for tonight? Okay. Ms. Dashwood, if you would step forward.
Hello, some of you know me and some of you don't, but my name is Dorothy Dahlstrom, and I'm here in regards to the Oregon City Parks Foundation. Since you're a PRAC, I'm playing and looking for donations in your backyard. I'm currently in your parks, but I'm expanding my little clutches for all the bottles and cans that are depositable that I can collect and take and put into a nonprofit organization called Oregon City Parks Foundation. Phew. So, currently, you will see in 7 locations across our city, in our city buildings, this is our Drop-In for Parks logo. We're also in 7 private businesses, and we're looking for expansions. So if any of you know of realtor offices or any place else that might have 2 or 3 or 4 more employees, I want their bottles. Also, we're working at getting into more city projects. We started off accidentally picking up bottles at some of the celebrations around because there was a group picking them up and they no longer wanted to. I started working with Rita Hale with the recycle and sustainability out of Clackamas County. So she is supplying us with, it's called Clearstream System, racking systems. You'll see one in the back there when you throw away your water bottles. Every nickel goes directly to your parks. What I'm starting is some dialogue with Gail last year at the concert series. We're trying to expand this. I want to expand this to where you come down to drop off your bottles like the Shredded gets attendance. So we're starting with the Oregon Trail Concert Series again. We collect already all the Clearstreams around the park. However, I start with Gail, then we talk to Phil, we're getting our blessings, and so we're going to be doing, it's called the Big Drop-In. However we can get your support for announcements, volunteer help. We sure need some signage. If anyone knows anywhere I can get some funding for signage, we don't have that in our budget. But it will give us a huge boost as far as the city getting to know who we are, looking for volunteers, and cleaning up our parks 1 nickel at a time. So we're going to offer people to, when they come down to the concerts, to come and bring their recycled bottles from home, and they will have some volunteers in the back of that stage waving flags and holding up our blue bag system. We're starting our own bottle army. Just like the Timbers have it, we're stealing their Fought Thunder. So private citizens can take these from us and fill them up and bring them back to us, or drop them off down at the deposit center on the bottle drop on Beaver Creek, and or they can drop off their bottles, and at that location we'll fill them up that night and drop them off ourselves. So I guess I'm here to inform and ask for your blessings. And if there's any other way that you might think that I can put more Clearstream systems up, do some more events, maybe coexist or cooperate with other events that are going on. And if you can think of any where we can keep our Clearstream systems up, but they have to be indoors. We can't leave them outdoors because otherwise they just won't get collected by our park systems, because we go by every Tuesday. We hope to have to step that up. So that's my spiel. That's who I am. You'll see more of me. Don't run. Embrace me, because I'll chase you down. But again, go to our Facebook page. You can see who our participants are. You'll roll through there and you'll see Lithia Subaru, Nautilus, Les Schwab, Tony's, Curves, City Hall, that beautiful face right up there holding the Clearstream, our swimming pool, Pioneer Center, library. You're seeing this everywhere. Encourage you to drop your bottles off there if you need to. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dee Dee.
Okay.
I
Thanks,
want to
Dee Dee.
mention that Dorothy is also a member of the Natural Resource Committee.
That's a whole nother subject. I'm coming back on that one. So. Thank you.
Can I say one quick thing?
Yes.
Dee Dee started out with this thing, and she's just been ferocious with it, and it's really great for our parks. And Roger is her backup and has worked with her on the Tuesday collections, especially when the weather was bad. So thank you to Roger.
Bad weather guy.
Bad weather guy. Everybody's got to have one of those. So
Fair
anyway,
weather guy.
yeah. So thank you both. It's terrific, and it goes up to 10% or 10 cents in April or May. So
in April.
yeah,
3% raise.
that's right.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why we want to get all this.
It's a nice profiting.
So some of us have those blue bags in our garage that we just fill them personally. So if you need one of the blue bags, just
Go to our website, call us, we'll bring it to
Yeah.
you. Sometimes you'll see them hanging on the sides of those Clearstream systems at certain locations.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for the concert series.
Okay. So moving along in our agenda, next is our presentation on the Vietnam Memorial Wall project. Evan.
Hi, good evening, and thank you very much for having me. I'm going to pass out two separate sheets. If you could just pass those on. And I'm here to give you an update as to where we are. I appreciate being here this evening. Nice to see many of the same faces and some new ones as well. Since our last meeting, we had a gathering there at the site. Sean and Doug were kind to show. And O.M. Stone, whose name you'll see on the bottom of those renderings, came by to assess the site and see how a monument could take shape on the newer location. When I was here the first time, we talked about putting it right alongside the promenade there in front of the VFW post. And then we had some conversations afterwards with Parks and I think, the historical
Planning department.
planning department. And we met up at this location. There was some issue with maybe having the monument too close to the promenade because of its historical significance, and putting something there was that, along with some other issues about how that promenade may be continued. It was decided that it would be best to just move it back a little bit. So just right off of the promenade, there's a little bit of an elevation to reach the parking lot of the VFW post. And there's a couple of slots, or slips, whatever you would say, right at that intersection of where that promenade is just below. That would be a nice spot for the location.
DJ Ruger, the post commander, was there, unable to attend this evening, but was in agreement that that would be a very nice location because of the number of people that walk along the promenade. Moving it any further away would dilute its visibility. So with that said, the challenge then became how do we redesign how this looks or could look to be able to fit in that space and also prominently display not only all those that didn't come back, but the 4 Medal of Honor recipients, the different service organizations, and some language about the war and such. So that wall is an early depiction of what could take shape. I had a discussion with them, and it really is more of a skeleton. There's a lot of meat that can go around that wall in fitting the bricks and fitting the different plaques and granite facings that we would want to put into the wall. The VFW post suggested that it would be very nice to honor not only the MIA but the POW that were held. And so having that incorporated in, along with the 4 Medal of Honor recipients, the names of all those that didn't make it back, and the 5 service organizations would be the granite markers on that wall that we'd want to use. In talking with the designer, is you can look at the image that has the Medal of Honor medals there on the top of the pillars. He suggested that might be a nice place to put it, but in his rendering, he understood that we wanted the names facing the VFW post. It would be opposite of that. But you can see how those can be added into the wall. The first was just a diagram of the shape that it could be to fit into that space. So that's really just my update to date, and I'd like to take any questions or comments.
I do have a question on this one here.
Yes.
It looks like a stairway as opposed to the walkway across McLaughlin. Is that further away from the promenade, or are you looking down on it?
Looking down on it.
Okay.
So that's up above that, the 2 green lines that are going north as you look at the page, right there. That's the green walk bridge that crosses over to the river.
Okay.
So that intersection there, the end of the promenade and the green bridge that takes pedestrians over towards the river.
The only question I have on the promenade walkway side, it looks like there's would be difficulty in seeing anything on that one side of it because it looks like it drops right off. Or am I missing something?
Which, do you mind if I stand up to have you point to what you're looking at?
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah.
And this is the walkway here, right?
Correct.
And this is pretty highly sloped, isn't it? Right here.
Yeah, it's about 2 to 3 feet at that point. I think what I took away from that meeting is you can't build it on the sidewalk, but the further off the sidewalk, you can still add features in that grassy area that would allow
Want
you
people to get up
to
there.
approach it.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
not
sort of
like
what I
you're
see.
standing on the sidewalk looking 10 feet over at the wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They were in agreement in that grassy walkway, Doug, that there could be some sort of
Right.
A sloped walkway
Yeah, that's
so that
what
you
I-
could come up.
That's what I remembered. But
They didn't render that in because
Yeah.
there's some more discussions that
Sure.
would need to be have as to what that would look like. But an invitation for people that were on the walkway to come up to the monument is what would be the desired outcome.
Right.
And another thing that you and I talked about, Evan, was that's not depicted, but for us to not, sometimes you look at a picture and you think that's exactly the way it is, but really, like you're saying, it's just a skeleton. So like one of the other key features is this doesn't show any sort of landscaping on the parking lot side. So it's not like the idea would be, it's not like you could literally park against the wall.
Right. And there would be some features that would be on the opposite side, away from the river side, to make a clean and demarcation, I guess, from where a car could come close to. Whether that be some boulder-looking rocks that could be placed there, a wall of some sort that is elevated above the level of the parking so that a car could not accidentally bump into that, would be incorporated in. Any other?
Are you looking for design input at this point, or is it way far away from that?
I think we're a little far away from that.
Okay.
We're going to have another meeting up there, and I understand that we also need to go and speak with the neighborhood committee?
Neighborhood Association.
Right, the neighborhood
Laughlin.
association. So I am going to be speaking with a few of the people, the VFW post especially, for input. If there are things that you're seeing that would be something that you'd like us to consider, by all means.
Well, it's something I think maybe should be considered. Just from a security standpoint, that long continuous wall, nefarious activity of one sort or another, or will people feel safe if they're, are they going to feel like nobody can see where they are? And I'm wondering about sections. Still, I like the shape. That curved shape is cool, but should there be breaks in it? Just something to think about. I don't know. It concerns me a little bit from a security standpoint.
Well, and I can tell you right now, from the VFW standpoint, I had even an email today. We're in the process of having bids on new security system cameras placed, including outside, specifically in the direction of the wall, because I think the VFW, part of their commitment is ensuring that this area, including the rest of the parking lot, is kind of maintained, looks good, safe and secure. There's all new lighting in the area now.
Okay.
So it's definitely a
Just a thought.
concern.
Yeah, just a
but
thought.
I think the idea is it's going to have a camera aimed right at it.
But not at the backside. That's what.
Well, I think the
frightens.
height from the building down, you're going to be able to see behind it, unless somebody's literally laying in the bottom edge. Even here, the camera is going to pretty much get most from there over because the angle, the height off that building, because of the elevation change.
Okay.
So.
What type of material would it be made from?
There's going to be some granite features. Black granite is what I would like, just because of the facing of the POW, the flag. The idea that we have to fundraise is to use bricks and have those bricks then eventually, after they're carried by people who would be able to have a hands-on experience and walk that around wherever it is that we bring the bricks, they would be unnamed. But once we were done with that fundraising campaign, there would be the name of each of those that didn't make it back put onto a brick, and those very bricks would be part of the feature, the monument itself. The stones and the other things that you see in this wall are more just to give some element of something as opposed to being smooth. But we will be using some nice granite and use colors and stones that would all combine to a nice and attractive features.
Is this wall all completely on VFW property?
The property actually belongs to Oregon City.
Okay, that's all right.
The entire property is a city park.
The
The property that the VFW sits on specifically is VFW property. The parking lot and everything associated with it is Oregon City and operated by the Parks Department.
Yeah.
thank you.
I might have missed it when are these lights in there that you're showing? Are those lights? Those little white.
Oh, those little dots there?
Yeah.
I don't. No, those are not lights.
Oh, okay. Well,
No.
Then my question is: are you going to have it lit?
It will be lit. Exactly how those features will be tied back into whatever the final design looks like.
Oh yeah. Talk to Mike.
There might be an opportunity for a donation there.
Yeah, there might
There we
be.
go.
There might be.
Well done, Roger.
That'd be an interesting challenge.
But certainly with what's going to be developed below and the historical promenade, I think is only going to begin to see more foot traffic. I think it's very proud to be able to put this there in front of the VFW post, many of whom there served, of course, in Vietnam. So we're excited to have that opportunity to work side by side and make that happen. I do think, in light of what you just put in up at the county offices with that monument that was moved, that there could be some, some big recognition on the day that this would be unveiled for an annual event to have, veteran support shown by the community, because one of those 4 names that's on the wall that was one of the Medal of Honor recipients is one of your very own.
Evan, could you take a minute, if I may, and ask you to give a little history of kind of who you are and why you're doing this? Because I think you haven't heard before, and several other people haven't.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry, that was said the last time, so I didn't want to repeat, but with that introduction. Our foundation, I started a foundation around my 40th birthday. We raised money for a children's charity, and we wound up, over the years, they said we need to do this annually. We've raised about $1.5 million for children's charities. Around my birthday is how it was started, but a bunch of friends and those that I've gotten to be friends with have come alongside and supported. About 4 years ago, I guess it was 3 years ago, our board challenged me to think beyond just giving to the children's charities. Our mission is to create giving opportunities for local charities. And one of the things that was near and dear to my heart when I thought about who would I like to give to, are veterans. My father served. He's still with us, but he was in Vietnam, and he gave 27 years to the Army. He was the Corps of Engineer, the district engineer. When Mount St. Helens blew up, my dad was responsible for that whole cleanup operation, which is pretty cool. But I moved around a lot. This is the 13th place that I've lived, and this is what I've made my home. My parents and 2 of my 3 sisters now live. And when we thought about what else would we like to do, I suggested that we would do a skydive jump to benefit veterans. I never thought I would ever skydive. I thought it was silly, but when we came up with the idea of raising money for veterans, I tried to think beyond the realm of what could we do, and I came up with the idea that they jump out of planes all the time for us. Let's get behind them and do it. And so we raised a good deal of money. There was about 400 to 500 that showed up out to Malala. Ted Kulongowski was one of the 50 who jumped out of the plane with us, and it was a beautiful day. We did it. We chose to do it on D-Day, and we found there were 9 veterans that had served in World War II that came. One of the veterans was one of the first to step off onto Omaha Beach. Elwin Swigert, who lives out in Malala, 94-year-old man, came back from the war and went right into the mill, and 70 years later almost, we found him, only to find out he never received his medals. So we ended up giving the man his Victory Medal, his Croix de Guerre for fighting in Normandy, and his Bronze Star. 70 years to the day they stepped off on that beach. We had that ceremony. And everyone that came said that was awesome. That was as cool as that barn bash is. We should do something for veterans. So I found out shortly thereafter that we just coincidentally had this event on the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. We found out that it was the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the Vietnam War. It's a 3-year honoring. This is the 3rd of the final year of that. And so our goal would be to try to make this monument happen during that commemoration. Although if it happens in year 4, that's fine too. But that was what was the impetus behind what it is that this effort is about. Is that okay?
That's outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Today, Brian Boyce and I met with Christina Robertson from planning, and regarding and I haven't talked to Phil yet, about one of the grants we're going to be proposing for Parks Foundation, and that's this strip here that goes up from this is all rocks and grass, and we're proposing putting some hardy, drought-tolerant flower or perennials in there. So we might be able to work with you a little bit with that. I don't know if I mentioned it last time you were here or not.
No, but I think that would make it more beautiful. And I think that there's room for making it more beautiful. As you walk along that's not a very beautiful strip that could be made more so.
Yeah.
And absolutely, thank you.
Great. Well, we'll be talking to you. Soon we talk to Phil.
So those are my updates. If there are any other comments, I'm going to leave my card. I think I left that the first go round, but for any of you, if you have thoughts afterwards. you can reach out. Will that be okay?
Thank you so much, and let us know any updates, progress, once, finalization of design, or, be looking forward to seeing that.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think at the point that they go to McLaughlin, it might be good for some prac representation.
Oh, do we need to go back to that? Is that on here?
No, I'm just saying in the future, at the point when he wants to show this concept, we should probably attend and kind of participate and support.
The McLaughlin Neighborhood
Right.
Association, when they're presenting at McLaughlin.
Yes.
Right. And the next one, 6B, is off the agenda, is that correct?
Correct, it is.
Okay. So we are down to number 7, general business, and Mr. Lewis.
Yes, so this is a standing item on our agenda, the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. Just want to give you an update. I know they came out to the December meeting and spoke a little bit about the concept design process and their interest in coming to a preferred concept. They're still working on that, the design team in the city and the partners group. So currently they're working on that preferred plan. They're looking at probably sometime late spring to do another public event. Additionally, behind the scenes, they're working on a lot of the processes as far as determining phase 1, phase 2, what's included, what's not, what the scope of that might look like, associated costs. There's so much of the structure of the site that is kind of commingled as far as foundations and different pieces supporting other pieces. So fairly complicated, but they're working a lot behind the scenes to get things ironed out and hopeful to come to a public event again sometime in late spring. You can still give feedback on the website, so rediscoverthefalls.com. If you go on the website, you can watch a short video and take a survey to give your feedback as well. So if anyone out in TV land is looking to do that, or anyone on the committee that is yet to go give your personal input, fully recommend you do that at some point before the end of the design process.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Okay.
Real quick, they were talking about maybe doing another tour for PRAC members. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, so they're looking at beginning the tours again in the next couple of months, and PRAC is on the queue for setting up a time, so that will be forthcoming. Additionally, the design team would like to come out at some point as we get a little bit closer before the public event and give another presentation, kind of speak about the process. So we'll probably within the next couple of months have an opportunity to go on site, as well as have an opportunity for the design team to come and speak again on the process.
Okay, so we might have to do like a little survey to see when we're available for those things.
Yeah,
or?
typically they do them on Fridays.
Friday afternoons, I
but
know.
if there's a conflict in regular schedules and we need to look at a different time, maybe we can do a doodle poll kind of thing to see if there's a general time that works best for this group.
Well, and I think the last couple of times, she's proposed just 2 or 3 different Fridays, and then we all kind of came back and whichever Friday, because you're right, it's always been Fridays.
Yeah.
Whichever Friday we could get the most participation was how it went.
Okay, great. Clackamas boat ramp update.
Yes. So as you are aware, we did propose a letter of support to the City Commission at a work session in November. They were pretty adamant that they did not want to write a letter of support for the boat ramp in the immediate, and that they wanted some additional work around what the park would be, what that experience is for users. Obviously, there's concern over the loss of green space in the park with moving the boat ramp down 300 feet from its current location, what that mitigation might look like. We have received additional direction from the commission at this weekend's goal-setting retreat. So there is interest in doing an update of the There was a 2002 waterfront master plan that was conducted, which included the Cove property all the way down John Storm, the entire waterfront along the Clackamas and Willamette rivers. This would be an update of that plan, focusing specifically on Clackamas Park and the properties immediately adjacent, which would be the overflow parking, the two properties that are owned by the city directly adjacent to the McDonald's property there. So looking at focus areas of that master plan would be the boat ramp, the RV park, and the overflow parking area. So really determining what we want that to be, how we want people to interact with that park, knowing that we have a lot of residents that are moving into that Cove property right next door, knowing that we have the Willamette Falls project coming online, and if there's a need for additional parking at that location for the property across the street, or if we again want to have a boat ramp, if we want to have an RV park, if we do, what investments are needed, and again, just looking at long-term use of that facility.
Can I ask a clarification?
Sure.
So to clarify, you surprised me. I think what I heard you say is they did not send a letter of support?
They did not send a letter of support. I have been in communication with the Oregon State Marine Board. They are... So I believe I presented this to the group, to this group in December, that the end of December deadline was we would like to have it by deadline, as opposed to if it's not by the 31st, then there's no funding moving forward. Right. There is still a funding stream available to us. The main determinant for that deadline of the 31st was in order to get us onto a queue for work plans, as well as making sure that we had all of the planning done in a way that we were able to get the in-water work and getting permitting through Army Corps of Engineers, and all the permits that are required are very lengthy. And so in order to make sure that we don't have a gap in service for the boat ramp, knowing that it was about a 5-year fix, it was completed during that process. That was the main determinant around the timeline. So they're aware of the concerns of the commission as well as the concerns of PRAC, and are interested in receiving feedback as soon as possible, but they do understand that there's a larger process in place.
So then, as far as our role, where are we today?
Yeah, so as of today, we are in the process of putting together.
What I mean, let me clarify that. Where is PRAC today?
Yeah, so
what's our input? What's our role? Are we just sitting back waiting for them to fund a master plan update, or? Yeah,
so I believe we have the funding lined up. Okay. At this point, I'm working with the finance department for the city, as well as we will probably be going back to the commission at some point to receive approval of funds to begin the process of developing the master plan. I guess for PRAC, it would be nice to get maybe an official support of going through the process of approving, feeling like there's a need to go forward with a master plan for that property. I believe the commission is pretty, it seems to be pretty behind making that happen. And they're going through, again, as we're developing the budgetary process, their recommendations for goal setting and going forward with the budget committee, so to finalize the budget for the next biennium. The discussion that we've had with the finance department is knowing that we have a narrowing window of opportunity for developing the master plan in comparison to where the budget process lines up, trying to address that as soon as possible. So if there is possibility to begin the process before the biennium turns, in order to make sure that we're hitting the deadline for the permitting process for the boat ramp to be moved to its preferred location on the property. if that makes sense.
It does. Sorry to keep asking more follow-on
that's
questions,
okay.
but so thinking this through, the end of the budget cycle is June 30th. So are we correct in assuming that then we wouldn't hire a contractor to help the city do a master plan until sometime in the in the summer or fall of 2017? And so after public input, those are usually 3 to 6 month processes. And so really we won't have any feedback back to the Marine Board now till sometime in 2018. Am I
So that's
correct?
you're on correct. You're very correct. So that's some of the conversations that are happening behind the scenes in order to get funding appropriated before the biennium.
Okay.
So in order to keep as close to our timeline as we can, to start that process as immediate as we can, knowing that we have that window that we need to hit. So we're working with finance, and then we'll be working with the commission to try to get funds approved during this current biennium, knowing that they've been set as a priority for the next biennium. And that, again, Wyatt and his team behind the scenes doing their wizardry to make all of the things line up in the way that they need to happen.
Okay, then the next question is, Waterfront Master Plan is a city commission plan, different in a different way than our Parks Master Plan or a RV Park Master Plan that's currently in place. So is the city commission intending to run point on this? And we would just be attendees at those meetings, or is this going to be a park master plan that PRAC is running point on?
It's still to be determined, hasn't been fully vetted. Again, we just received direction this weekend.
Okay.
And so still working on a plan, putting that together. It has been placed under my work plan.
Okay.
And it's been identified as a community services plan. So I would imagine that PRAC would be very involved in that process,
Okay.
Particularly as the properties all are parks properties.
And that's my concern, and that's really the reason for most of these questions, is that this seems like completely in our purview, but that it could be easily removed if we're not showing the proper interest that we want to be involved. And I think we do.
Definitely we do, but I think it's bigger than the park,
Absolutely.
because there's a whole lot of moving parts, like the vacant lot across the street, and will there be need for parking there as Willamette Falls happens? I think that I'm speaking a little out of turn, but I believe that the commission is, when they're looking at the waterfront, they're looking at all the way from Willamette Falls to the Clackamas River Trail, which is more than just a park master plan. It's that whole waterfront and how it ought to flow together instead of the little kind of cut up series of stuff that there is. So we want to have a major role, you're right, but I don't think we're going to be on point.
And I will say that there was discussion among the commission to narrow the focus, so to use the 2002 plan as a jumping off point, but to narrow the focus to specifically Clackamas Park and the adjacent property across the street, which is currently being used for overflow parking for the park, but it is owned by the city, not by the Parks Department, and it currently the...
Are you talking about the empty land? That's actually owned by the Urban Renewal Agency.
No, that piece is
it's
not.
the city.
It's not.
No.
Yeah. Although, so Eric Underwood has been working on trying to get development on that location as part of the economic development plan. And so, I mean, up until the December meeting, the commission had that actively listed, and they decided to pull that listing and to try to determine what's the best use of that property, whether it's for parks or maybe they do end up selling it to a developer at some point.
When I made a report to the natural, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. When I made a report to the Commission of the Natural Resource Committee, I had recommended that the City Commission, PRAC, and the Natural Resource Committee do actually a tour of the site. I mean, this this is going to be part of a big master plan, and I understand that. The renderings we saw bothered us a great deal because they were cutting off a significant piece of the actual recreation area that was there. But right along there's a berm, and right on the other side from the river of the berm, on the park side from the berm, there's essentially just a gravel road there. I mean, it seems to me that the concept of the boat ramp should reflect the fact that the renderings that we're giving to us aren't the only alternatives, and you might be able to use a piece there that really doesn't have much recreational value at all. And it would be nice if we could get the commission to agree to have kind of a joint tour of that area. My fear, you said 6 months of the master plan. I've been around knowing that oftentimes those master plans are far longer than a 6 month period. And my concern is
being optimistic.
If the Marine Board thinks that it's such a long process that we've lost interest, that we might lose on an opportunity here. And so I'd like to have us. It's going to. The city owns the property. The park doesn't really own anything. The city owns all that. But in any case, it'd be nice if we could take a look at it, maybe even before we get deeply in the master planning process, just to get an idea of what some of the conceptual possibilities are going to be.
Yeah, like an informal walkthrough. I totally
yeah.
agree with you.
Especially for the new people on the committee that haven't had their feet in that park maybe quite as much as some of the rest of us have. I had a question about the property that's just kind of up the Clackamas from there that everybody at one time assumed that Gladstone owned, and now that's kind of in dispute as to really whose property that is. And has anything been determined regarding that?
I don't know a lot of detail on that. Urban Renewal owns most of the property on that side.
Okay.
There is a small square that I believe is owned by Gladstone.
Yeah, their building, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, everything else around it, though, is Urban Renewal property.
Okay.
And it shows the city limits of Gladstone extending to that piece.
Well, back to the conversation. My concern is that this loses, I think from this group, is that it loses any sense of urgency. I think that we need to keep our foot on the gas, and like Doug's saying, with the opportunity for funding, she was pretty clear that could dwindle very quickly. I'm very afraid of that happening, and I'm sure the commissioners are feeling the same way, but we need a way to make them aware that we're very concerned about that as well. I mean, there's multiple factors here. We don't want to lose a boat ramp. We had plenty of fishermen that were concerned about that asset, but on the other hand, there's a recreational opportunity that could be lost. And so I think we can do it right, but we need to get on it.
And I share your urgency, and that it has been communicated to the commission.
Good.
And they want to make sure that they are thoughtful in the process, not just trying to meet timeline of an outside agency, but that there's a thoughtful process that serves our overall needs.
Yeah. Good.
So would we like to add an update about the waterfront master plan as a standing update for this committee? I see a nod from Mike. Okay.
I was going to say, do we need that, or almost I'm wondering, well, it's on the city website. I was going to say maybe we should all kind of look it over before the next meeting. I mean, at this point, we need to know it.
And
It's like required bedtime reading.
Yeah, the plan is separated into sections. So there's a section on Clackamas Park and development around that area. And it's a pretty flexible plan because it is focused somewhat on economic development, and knowing that that's often tied to what private developers want to do with properties. And so there's quite a bit of flexibility in the plan. But it is on the website. You can pull it up under the planning portion of the Oregon City website. and I can send the link out as well
That'd be
if it's of interest.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that'd
you.
be good, please.
Please do.
Any other questions on item 7B? So moving on to 7C, our vacant prac position. So,
You want me to give?
yes, please.
So, well, and Phil could do the same, but there was a gap in between the time that we made the decisions and you guys were notified, and that's generally because the mayor needs to make those appointments. And during that time, Michael received a new job offer, and it requires him working till 7 p.m. on Thursday night. So it's simply a scheduling conflict. And because of the delay, he thought that he hadn't been accepted. So there was, that. And so he went back and tried to renegotiate that and wasn't successful. And so he said, I thought it was great. He said, I don't like creating a problem without trying to offer a few suggestions or solutions. And so he had like 3 different ideas. They weren't realistic for us, which was like switching nights, times, only coming at important meetings. And so, and I emailed him today. He was very bothered. He was very bothered for creating this problem. So I just wanted to pass that on to everybody. So.
Well, we accept his, apologies and congratulate him on his new job. But it does leave the vacant position, and we had 2 other interviewees for the position, but it turns out that one of them was from Park Place, and we already have 2 representatives from Park Place, and so that leaves just one that was interviewed. And so the question is if it's acceptable with this committee that we nominate Mr. Bill Daniels for that position, or if we open it up for applications again. But that, of course, then would put it off for another couple months. And
I move that we request the appointment of Bill Daniels to the BRAC.
I'll second that.
Is this a full term for the
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah, because the start of it would be 3 years minus 1 month. Yeah.
okay, so it has been moved by Doug and seconded by Sean that we offer the position on prac to Bill Daniels from the McLaughlin neighborhood. Any other discussion on that? Okay. Do we need to vote on that, or is that?
Mhm.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
I think I'll abstain.
Lisa wasn't in on those
Right.
discussions, and she hasn't had a chance to meet him yet,
Yeah,
so,
so.
okay, that's understandable. Movies in the park.
So just really quickly with that, so that will be an appointment that will be made by the mayor. I assume we will be able to get that onto his agenda for one of the upcoming city commission meetings prior to our next meeting. But for some reason, if not, I will definitely update the group.
And I would probably, I know Bill, and I'm sure he would like this, but probably want to reach out to him and just make sure he's interested.
I would imagine
Remains
that
interested.
should happen as well. Correct.
He's got a lot of talents. Okay. Anything else on that? Are we moving on to 7D? Movies in the park?
So the movies in the park, one of the attachments to the agenda included the dates of the movies in the park for the 2017. So we're
Thank you.
having movies in the park on August 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th. As in years past, we will be posting, if approved by PRAC, we'll be posting the attached movies to the website to be voted on by the community at large.
Oh, that's me.
And the movie that does have the most votes will be shown on that evening.
Just to let you know, there were concerns that were brought up about certain movies that got the most votes being more inappropriate for children, and so we have had occasions where the parks director had gone ahead and pulled those off. So it's kind of critical. You look at what the reviews say about the movies and the language that's used and so forth.
I know that there was, so looking at the movies that are offered for each of the nights, so all of the movies are rated PG. The movies that are listed on August 18th are PG-13. So there is one of the weeks will have a PG-13 movie for older youth and adults, and all the other nights being general PG viewing.
That concerned me too. We just had some people enter the building that we're not sure that
Should be in the building?
That yes.
Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, I can go follow up on that if you
Okay.
guys want to keep
And
yourselves
we'll
occupied.
discuss these movies. Okay.
I'm not able to pull them up.
It's right here under documents.
Yeah, but
It's not on it.
Anybody know what the
I'm not able
BFG
to pull.
is? I don't know BFG
Wait
at
a
all.
minute, let me get on it again. But
BFG is Big Friendly
It's not-
Giant.
Oh, okay.
It's right there.
It's a very good movie.
Where's it at?
Good message.
You have grandkids.
Yeah.
What?
I went
You have
too far down.
grandkids, don't you?
No, I don't.
I tried to do
No,
that.
my wife and I went to it. Honestly, well, since we're kind of in a
Oh.
we're kind of
Yeah,
in
what am I not
in a
using
pause,
this
we
for? What's
went
the
to
matter
it
with me?
because the
I'm using
gentleman
my
who
fingers.
plays the
There we go.
BFG is named. Oh, cripes!
Thank you.
I just totally blanked on it. British actor, and we had just seen him about 2 weeks before in London, in a play, and he's marvelous. He played the Russian spy in the Tom Hanks. It was a Steven Spielberg movie, and Tom Hanks was negotiating. I'm losing track of everything. Anyway, well, I can't. I'll think of his name in just a minute. But it's a real good movie.
Oh,
He's a friendly giant.
BFG. Yeah.
BFG. Yeah.
Rogue One's already available.
Which one?
Rogue One is already available.
yeah, that surprised me.
It's
Lisa, are you
still in the
familiar with
theaters.
how these go, Lisa?
Well, this
Yeah.
is
And
going to
the
be in
movie will be-
August.
Yes.
So, you know
Good.
that.
I
Yeah.
think these are
I
people
went
that
to,
movies that they
to a
just
couple
listed.
last
They may
year.
not be
Okay,
available.
great.
Yes, I am. Thank you. In fact, I live nearby the park. Very cool. Well,
You
I
live nearby this park?
Not this park.
not this one.
Oh.
The movies in the park. Yeah,
Oh, I thought you lived in Park Place.
I do. Well, it's close enough for me. It's
Yeah, this is-
perspective. It's perspective.
I think of Park Place because I used to live by that park. I think of Park Place as the opposite side of the city.
Yeah,
That's what confused me.
perspective.
Mark Rylance was the guy.
Okay. Well, it's going to be tough for me to pick on some of these, which
Yeah.
one I like the best. But this looks like a really nice group of.
Yeah, the most of those PG-13s I know, and they're not language issues. Maybe violence issues, but not
Yeah.
language issues.
And
Well, I
Ferris
haven't
Bueller's
seen
Day
the
Off is
movie.
classic.
I have little nieces and nephews, so Finding Dory and the Secret Life of Pets was a big hit with
Yeah,
them.
that's going to be a tough one for my grandkids too. Which one I'm going to vote for? But we thank the park staff for coming up with this group, and we heard no objections for these. If these want to be posted on the website, I don't think we have to take an official vote on that. I think
Great.
it's by a consensus
Yeah.
that we like
Yep.
this group. And,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goals update. And I thank Sean very much for bringing up the goals that then Phil had to bring before the city commission for their retreat.
Actually, that
And-
was Doug gets full credit for that. He was tracking that and brought my attention to it.
I did.
Well, and then Doug put on two hats and tried to combine everything into one letter, and that was really cute. So,
Yeah, that was not cute. That was embarrassing.
did make me laugh. It was changing midstream.
Well, I did. I wrote a letter for the Natural Resource Committee, and I wrote it as a Park Advisory Committee, and I had sent it out.
You
Oh, yeah,
had
it
both
was
names in there. It was you know, and we don't live in little boxes. So there is a copy. Has everybody been able to pull it up on their screen of the 2015-16 goals? And so we can take a quick browse through those, see if there's any amendments we want to consider making.
Yeah, I've got at least one. Number 6, if we've zoomed back out now to talk about a waterfront master plan, we won't get around to talking about an RV park master plan this year.
So, part of it is to
Maybe that should
something
say
about our
waterfront
involvement
master
in the
plan
water
instead.
part, yeah,
Right.
in the waterfront master plan.
Right.
How long is the completion of Wesley Lynn Park going to be on there, Sean?
Well, I don't believe in taking stuff off a list until a project's done, and it's not done
That's right.
until we determine, or we just say, yes, it is. But that it was a 2-phase park, and phase 1's been built, but never phase 2. So that's why it stays there.
Was phase 2 planned, or
Yeah.
there
It's-
is?
It's
Okay.
in the planning documents.
All right.
So all activities remain to be completed? Phase 2 hasn't started yet?
No, there's been a couple elements of phase 2 that were done by the high school construction corps, namely a bathroom facility. But in general, the other elements have not been. We would all, but really, realistically, before you went in and completed the phase 2 as is previously written, is now the park has expanded by another 5 acres, and that 5 acres has 0 plan.
Yeah, so,
So-
it needs to be incorporated and the plan revised.
Yeah, it's going to scope creep. But my fear is if the further it slides off people's radars, and as we cycle through, you could get 5 years from now and nobody really knows there's another plan other than Phil.
Okay. All right, so thinking about what that's going to take.
I think it's very important that Glen Oak stay at the top of the construction list. That neighborhood has more people in the city not served by a park than any other area.
And Filbert Run, because they've been waiting for a long time for their
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
It's all about finding the funding, right, Phil?
It is. Sadly, it is.
Sadly, yeah.
There's consensus on the current items 1 through 6, with 6 being removed and replaced with involvement in waterfront master plan.
I heard Sean saying that's not exactly what he wanted to happen. Am I right?
What did I say?
Well, I thought you felt that we should have that as a placeholder since we've already were doing it, or am I right?
No, I was referring to the Wesley Lynn Park portion. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's why. No, I like the rewrite of 6 to encompass
okay.
all of the waterfront master plan. I was just addressing kind of the need
Right.
for
Okay.
Wesley Lynn to stay
I
there.
did like the RV master plan. It was really beautiful,
Yeah.
but things might change.
Well, and I think this whole body at the time did. That.
At that time, we weren't thinking that the boat ramp would ever have to move.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more questions. And one I've kind of lost track of. Newell Creek Canyon, isn't that planning done? Or am I wrong?
In Metro, yes,
Yeah.
that the master plan for Newell Creek Canyon is completely done. And
that
again,
doesn't-
it's a funding.
Okay.
Stream
But
issue.
but the planning process is done.
That's Metro's park, yes.
Yes, that there. So I just read an update on that the other day by the gentleman from Metro that comes and speaks to us, and they're in the just before the construction document phase, with completion of that park of the upper part of the park in 2018. So his narrative was basically spring to early summer of 2017. You won't hear much of us. But you won't hear much about it because it's a lot of backroom kind of fine details. But it's past planning. They have a
Okay.
master plan completed and adopted.
Okay, so we should take it off at number 2.
Oh, didn't see that.
Yeah, the planning process. I see what
Right.
you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Bring me full circle. Yeah, absolutely. Newell Creek planning process is complete.
So,
Now,
Newell Creek Canyon would be in completion, yes.
Yeah. Advocate and be involved in Landfall's Legacy project.
So maybe
And
it's
then
to
one
be-
more thing, and I'll stop talking.
You
Oh, no,
you
don't
could
do that.
rephrase that.
Okay.
You could
Rephrase
rephrase
what?
that to include, just make it broader. continue to advocate for and be involved in both the Willamette Falls Legacy Project and other regional projects in our area.
In case something comes along.
Well, because they're continually kind of doing work on the Kanema,
Okay.
and you got Newell
Yeah, I
Creek,
like that.
and there's elements to both that are currently in process.
Okay.
So continue to advocate for and be involved in both the Willamette Falls Legacy Project and other regional
Projects.
I do know that Metro has several times, surveyed that area to see, because, they're down our street. So
One more thing, and then I'll stop.
no, don't.
And
do
that's
it.
under additional items.
I saw that too. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're not going to do a Parks Day. I thought was our decision.
We are not going to host a parks event in conjunction
And we don't
with
need to do
one
smoking.
summer movie.
And we don't need to talk about no smoking in parks.
I think if we reordered that, identify trail connectivity issues could go to the top of that additional items list.
And,
Yes, good.
And actually, they've done. Do we still need to address the parking and accessibility issues at events? Because they did a lot of work last year on making those concerts in the park. There were additional parking.
That statement's kind of overly broad. I mean,
Yeah.
is there been
Yeah.
issues, or are we just waiting for people to bring those issues to us?
Let's strike that issue and let's look at a new topic. Because a lot of this is very broad, but in the next biennium, we need to name 2 parks. So we need to begin the naming process for the property at Glen Oak Road and Filbert Run. And so why don't we have something on there relating to complete naming process for newly master planned properties.
So do we
I
just take
presume
number
that- 4
and change initiate to initiate and complete?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I keep switching back between the 2 documents that we have.
Yeah, so the 15-16 goals document was there just for
I see what you're
to give
saying.
you information on what the goals had been,
yeah.
and then the more discussion topics that were involved in leading up to the goals meeting. The goals retreat for commission is the second document, which is listed as input for city commission 17-19 goal setting.
Yeah, realistically, it's already on there, and I was already on the next page, making sure I
Okay.
had.
I guess I misunderstood. I thought we were working on our 17, 18
Yes.
goals. We are? And we're using 15, 16 as a starting point?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But I had moved to that document I had
You're
created.
jumping ahead?
Just making sure I had covered those things, but I couldn't see the other document. Technology, I need a piece of paper. Long-term maintenance. We don't have anything about the deferred maintenance issues on that list, do we?
So, and maybe this is a good point for me to bring up some of the discussion maybe at the goals setting that happened with the commission.
Yes.
One of the pieces that, so there are several items that were under the purview of the Community Services Department. The deferred maintenance issue for all of our parks, the operation facilities for our park staff, the Ermitinger House, and the waterfront master plan. So those were the 4 items that were related to community services. During the discussion that occurred, another goal was brought forward by the commission to add looking for long-term funding strategies for parks. So it has been directed to staff to begin the process of determining what options for long-term funding would be for parks. As preaching to the choir, and as you all know, we have many deferred maintenance items within our park system. A lot of our facilities, the pool and Pioneer Center, for example, were built in the 60s and 70s. We have a lot of deferred maintenance issues as it relates to some of our other facilities. And so looking at, The city has dedicated $200,000 annually during this current biennium for deferred maintenance issues, and it looked like there was consensus from the commission to roll that forward in the next biennium. But knowing that that's just a small percentage of the overall need that we have, and for each project that we try to catch up on, we have additional items that are continuing to fall back just because of the life cycle replacement timelines for the infrastructure that we maintain. So that is another item. So we have 5 goals moving into the next biennium for commission, which again would be deferred maintenance, long-term funding, park ops facility, the waterfront master plan, and the Ermitinger House. So if that helps at all with kind of structuring what you believe PRAC's goals should be as well, and trying to line them up in any form with the commission's goals.
Sounds like the only one that we're not well, the Ermitinger House isn't under our purview, is it?
What's the land? Is the land parkland?
It is operated by Community Services. Parks is
But it's not a
responsible
designated park.
for.
I think that's a city.
It is it's on the charter list.
So
which we will get into as well.
So it is.
Yes.
What I was going to say was relating to the parks maintenance facility, the facility side. That's a funding issue. More, I mean, I'm not sure how much we can advocate for that comparatively. You know.
I mean,
You know, I guess my concern on the Ermitinger House is that I think we should be involved to some degree on the use of it. In the past, it serves as a museum. A lot of money has been invested, and of course, it has come through community services in terms of the restoration to its original form. In fact, they found a great deal. It was a building that, and I'm not talking about the back piece which was added. They discovered that it was built at 2 segments, and then they discovered the stairway had been changed from where it originally was. So a lot of effort went to restore it to its original condition as a historic house. And the question is then, what are the implications of the use of it? And I guess that's a discussion that I feel we ought to have.
And I can give you an update on that if it's of interest as well.
Well, we could do it. Yeah, go ahead, but maybe we could.
We can add it. So I know that there was a request by Doug to have it as a more of a standing item, or do at least more regular updates on the Ermitinger House. It is currently operated by Parks and Recreation, by the Community Services Department. So that is something that I can bring forward to the group more regularly, and maybe we schedule one of the talking points, at least at the next meeting, on the Ermitinger House and where we're at and what the next steps are.
Yeah.
we need to have a tour of that.
Yeah,
and we can give a tour.
That's
Yeah.
right. I think most people have been there.
Because,
actually.
well, no, I haven't been since it was
Yeah.
remodeled.
Yeah.
How
You
many
know,
have
I
been
haven't
there
seen the
since
new
it's been
stairs.
remodeled?
Yeah.
Restored. Not
Restored.
remodeled.
Restored. Okay, have you
Oh,
had a
and
tour?
is Lisa aware of the Ermitinger?
Just from the website, but what year was it built? I didn't.
It's a little bit questionable, actually. 45, I think, is the year it's listed, but I think there's some evidence that at least part of it was actually perhaps constructed before then.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
it's listed. It said it's the third oldest, I think, residential structure in Oregon, but apparently there's some evidence that the date given is not appropriate for the whole house. That part of it had been constructed earlier than that.
It was moved from its original site, right?
Yes.
Moved twice.
Twice. Okay.
Okay, I look forward to, getting a tour.
John McLaughlin's body was moved twice too.
And his house once. Well, leave the guy
Only
alone.
once. Yeah, I only got moved once.
I do need to bring up one more thing on goals. I'm sorry. but I just keep thinking of stuff.
Okay, Mike,
Do
it's
we
okay.
need to have on here evaluation, extension, expansion of our off-leash dog area test?
Yes.
Let's put that in the additional.
Oh,
Yes.
This is a
Good idea.
subject near and dear to my heart.
And mine. And Joyce's.
I like that a lot.
So, what was the original plan on that? Was that we were just going to wait for feedback from the community, or
Yeah,
just
the original
kind of
goal-
monitor it as a pilot?
Yeah, the original goal was to pick 3 areas vastly different across the city, which we did. I mean, they're miles apart, and they were just off leash, not fenced, and just where somebody could legally do it. And let's see what problems or positive feedback arises.
And 2 of them are nicely used, and one of them doesn't even have garbage cans.
Being
Which one's that?
No,
Which one?
The
the one by Doug's old house,
yeah,
Barclay?
Barclay.
Barclay.
Yeah, the appropriately named for a dog park, Barclay Park.
Perfect.
There are no poop bags. There's not even a container to have any, and there's the couple times that we've been there, people had brought their own bags and picked up the poop, and then just leave the bags by the trees because there's no garbage cans. So that one rated an F- from me. So let's find out how the other 2 are doing, because they're much nicer parks.
Yeah, I would say that that's a correction that needs to be made, because a lot of people, even before we had it legal, a lot of people ran their dogs there. And most of them carried their bags out.
And I think part of the problem is because of the location of that park. There was a problem with homeless people using the garbage cans a lot. And so the overflowing garbage cans became a problem. So they took them out completely, and that didn't alleviate the problem. I think it just made it worse. So something.
I will check into that and get back to the group.
Okay. And just in general, how are we going to take a survey of how people are using the park? You know, going out there and talking to the neighbors that are using the parks.
I would be happy to do that at Park Place.
And is there signage at these?
Yeah.
There is
Yes.
signage.
I wonder if there's a way to come up with a short online survey and include that in maybe the June trail news, looking way out, get summertime when people are out and about, and then put what do you think about these? 1, do you know about them? We have some people around that know a lot about surveys and might be able to come up with the right questions.
Well, Wesley Lynn is on one of my walk areas now that I've moved. Every time I've gone through there, people are using it. And dogs are using it too, but
Well, I think the fact that people haven't been coming here or to Phil with negative comments, it's also kind of telling. I mean,
I agree.
Doesn't sound like there's anything bad going on about it. I mean,
And I would honestly say I don't think we really knew what to expect.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of thought we might get somebody sitting here a month or 2 in, and it's behind my house and I don't like it. And that never happened. It's only people that keep coming and saying good things.
Yeah, it's been,
That we need fences around them.
Yeah, they want more of it.
yeah, it's been a very positive experience in our neighborhood. Yeah.
So,
And yeah, well, I'd say that kind of echo what everyone else has said is since being here in the 3 months I've been here, I have not had any negative comments at all about the dog off leash areas. And I went and spoke at the Caulfield Neighborhood Association on Tuesday evening about the Glen Oak master plan and talked about the different elements in the dog park. And when I said dog park, fenced dog park, I mean, there wasn't a huge crowd, but they were all very seemed to be behind having a dedicated dog area. So something that I think is necessary and that the community generally wants.
is a survey and like Trail News putting something out there like that, is that the appropriate way to get our next round of feedback?
I think using the trail news is a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can definitely help facilitate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and draw attention from the news, Trail News, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. So you've heard a lot from us tonight, Phil, about things we want to do. So kind of put together an updated goals from our discussion, and then at our next meeting we'll fine tune them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll put together all the information and bring forward an update just to make sure that I understood everyone's thoughts in the way that they were meant to be received, and then we can try to revise a little bit more if need be at the next meeting.
Yeah, Joyce, maybe you and Phil can help refine them before the meeting and pass them out ahead of time with the agenda, and we could almost
come with your comments,
Right.
or even online
Yeah.
comments. Yes. Okay. Can we move on from there, Mike? Or are you finished?
I'm done.
I think she said it works on me.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay, other general business.
I'll bring it up because it's not exactly a member report. I'm going to come back to Filbert Run. It's going to be a while in the coming, but there's basically a stormwater creek goes through it. It only runs when there's rains. But at the stormwater system, it runs basically from north to south, and then there's a 90-degree cutoff in there that takes a major part of the water into a piping system. And that's kind of badly eroded. And I don't know that we need to have a master plan ahead of time just to perhaps get maybe Public Works to take a look at it, or something else to take a corrective measure on that without necessarily. Well, we do have a master plan. What I mean, but it's not waiting for the funding to come together just to take care of that particular issue.
I'll bring that up with my team as well as Public Works.
Okay.
To see what we can do.
Thank you. Eyes in the park, Doug. Thanks for walking our parks for us. Anything else before we move on to member reports? Member reports. I'm going to start over here with Roger.
Oh, thank you.
That's a short list this time.
It's a very short list.
Not what I expected.
So I have a very short list of items for the Pioneer Center, and because with so many snowy days, the center was pretty quiet, if you can imagine. So 2 classes have started for the term and are very full, and the daddy-daughter dance is set for February 10th, and unfortunately is very full already. Fortunately and unfortunately.
Got my tickets.
Did you get them this year?
Me too.
Good.
There you
I'm
go.
glad.
And my oldest thought she wasn't allowed to go, but I got her in.
I'll see you there.
And
I got mine. Yeah.
the last item I put on here was something from the National Recreation and Parks Association and regarding monarch butterflies. And they do have a spot on their site for partners, and I don't know if cities are partnering up with this, and the idea of protecting or replanting some of the plants for the butterflies, and that goes for the other bees and all the other little creatures. And for me, I know I'm always seem to be bringing this kind of stuff, but I think this is part of going to a park, is seeing, the natural, little animals, running around there. And so I don't know how this fits in with our group here, but I think if there's any way we can promote this, it'd be pretty.
Can I suggest putting this as a goal, because the monarch's larva feeding habitat, as I understand, is disappearing.
So the milkweed.
Yeah, the milkweed, and I would think that maybe there are parks that we could actually have plantings of that.
Mm-hmm.
Would there be an objection to putting that into our goals?
No, that,
Milkweed plantings on Arbor Day.
Putting it in that lower section, other items of interest, kind of, yeah. 'Cause- and I think that area is kind of light, because we've scratched a few, so.
I know that Bosky Dell, who's a wholesaler over in Willamette, or West Lynn, it does offer those. And she's pretty knowledgeable about native plants. It's a native plant nursery, so.
They were giving them away at one of the Oregon City Farmers Markets one time, and I got my little guy. Didn't keep it alive, but yeah, I mean it's.
They're hard to replant.
Okay.
That's it for me, thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug.
The only thing I'd report is just, we had, the Natural Resource Committee had put forward a couple of things. That's the letter that you referred to. On the goals, there were two of them. One was stream signage, any streams that go under the roads, to actually have signage there. And the other one was one that we reported out at the end of the year reports that we made, and the Planning Commission was at the same time. And that was looking at the stream inventory that the state does. There have been streams that have been identified that weren't on the original list when the City of Oregon City formed buffer areas around streams. And that delineation came out in 1999, so it's been some time. At the goal setting session, the one dealing with the signage for the streams didn't come forward, but when the city manager made his report at the end of some other items, he did in fact include the one that had to do with looking at the streams that the state has subsequently delineated and looking at for protection. And basically what this is, one of the city commissioners raised a question, well, aren't you doing something with a person's land rights there and so forth? Those come into place when a land use request comes forward and a development is occurring to have vegetative corridors around these streams. And so that was something that did come up at the city's goal setting session. And nothing came up about the stream piece.
And I will say one of the other pieces that you brought forward regarding
Signage?
signage for
Trails.
bike ped
Yeah.
transitions and right of way. I did bring that to John Lewis with Public Works and discussion on what we might be able to do moving forward. And he said, we can probably start to look at that as we go into the budgetary process for next year. And he said, heck, if there's a little bit of money left over at the end of this year even, that might be something that we can work on. So there are some ways for us to start to address some of those needs. And as you brought forward, there's a lot of opportunity that folks aren't even aware of. So it's something that we can continue to work on. That's not an identified goal for the commission, but it was brought forward during my presentation to the commission on Friday. And then something that I'll continue to work with the public works staff, and then probably what he had suggested was maybe we have a joint work group, which might include a member from BRAC, a member from TAC, and staff identified as well working on that. So I'll keep you updated as we have anything to share, but it is something that I'll continue to hold on to and make sure that we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean, with your tickets to the daddy-daughter dance.
I do. I'm looking forward to it. And my youngest daughter, since Christmas, keeps asking, how many more days? Almost every other day. It's pretty exciting, and she has no concept of what 3 days or 3 weeks is. So until it gets to where she can count it down on her fingers, she's not going to get it. I brought this up last month, and I'll bring it up again, and I'd actually be curious in the next month or two if you could provide some input back to us on this, and maybe you already can, but law enforcement issues in the park. Tonight, going home, I drove by a park, pitch black, 3 people in all black outfits and hoods getting out of their car and walking into a dark park. It just has me really concerned. And are we seeing an uptick trend-wise in vandalism? That always doesn't always get back to us. So, like from your standpoint and staff standpoint, Phil, are you seeing that? But also, I would like to encourage staff to encourage the police officers in the city to go out and do some of their reports sitting in their car at midnight in one of our parking lots, as opposed to other places. See if they can, shift some of their patrols to look at those things. So it's really got me bothered.
Would it be of interest to have a member of OCPD come do a presentation for BRAC?
Wow, that'd be outstanding. I mean, we've never had that.
It'd be nice to have, kind of a standing, maybe like quarterly report or something. Somebody come in and just kind of give us an update of what they're seeing and hearing. And
Yeah, I can reach out to staff and see if we might be able to line something up.
Great, thanks.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I got to yield my time to you.
I seem to have developed a reputation tonight.
To the gentleman from Glen Oak.
Just 2 quick things. First off, thank you, Phil, for taking the time Tuesday night to come to the Caulfield Neighborhood Association meeting. Unfortunately, I think between the people that were presenting and Joyce's husband, William, who was there as a guest, I think there were more presenters and guests than neighborhood residents. We struggle with attendance at that neighborhood association, and last Tuesday was almost embarrassing. So, but anyway, thank you for taking the time, and it was appreciated by the few of us who were there. And the only other thing is next Tuesday night, the 31st, is our next monthly meeting of the Parks Foundation, and you are all certainly welcome to attend. We would encourage and love to have you there. 7 o'clock, Pioneer Center. And Roger, I forgot that street again. What entrance is it?
Well, it's on Washington Street.
The Washington Street entrance. Wagon Wheel Room, is that what it's called?
Is that the lower
Yeah,
one?
the lower one, the one down below.
What date is that again?
31st, next Tuesday.
That's where PrEC used to meet.
Yeah, at Pioneer Center. Yeah. Back before
They
it
put us down
became
in
an
the
official
dungeon.
public meeting.
Down in the dungeon. yeah.
Anyway, please attend. That's it.
Lisa, anything from your neighborhood in the park?
Yeah, no comments at this time. I'm at the park every day. I was out there this morning, my dog, playing Frisbee. I'm either doing that or jogging in the area, running, jogging, and walking. Depends on my energy level, but really it's been a nice meeting place for the neighbors. It was a lot of fun during the winter storm that we had, the 2 or 3 snowfalls that we had. Kids were out. It was really just a blast for all the kids to be able to experience that. They were going sliding down the hill on their
It'd be a nice
little
park for doing that.
saucers, and yeah, it was a blast. And people came with their dogs, and I brought my dog, and it really was great. So I haven't had any negative experience at our park. So all good things.
I don't have anything tonight. I'll be looking for you to show me the ropes of the daddy-daughter dance.
Sounds good. Get in the balloon line first,
Early.
no matter what. I've waited 40 minutes in the balloon line and then had the dinner line announced, and we're now closing the balloon line.
Oh dear.
So
Good to know.
explain that to a little one.
There's
No.
something in our culture I do not understand. Daddy and daughter's dances are fine. Nobody ever has a mother and son dance.
Not my problem. Oh.
I have one. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's
You
fine.
go first.
No, finish up.
I neglected to bring Jerry Herman is giving a tour on Saturday, and what I'll do is I'll email everybody the information which I neglected to bring along. So it's about a 2-hour tour around Promenade Park and the area around here. I think is defined. Do you know anything about it?
I know one thing that's on it is that he's going to take everybody to a place that used to be a lake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and I'll email you the information as soon as I get home.
Okay,
I have one more thing too.
one more thing
Okay.
from Sean.
If I can have a little bit of that time back. I just wanted to put it out there for you guys, and if you know any other people involved with homeless, Saturday is the Clackamas County Veterans, Homeless Veterans Stand Down. It's going to be held at Mount Pleasant Elementary, and it starts at 9 a.m. And what this is an opportunity for them to meet with some of those veterans assistance organizations and the official VA, where they don't have that opportunity, being homeless. How do they get there? So they're bringing those people to them. They're going to have a dental bus there. They're going to have bags of clothes donations that they can have at the end. They're going to feed them. It's an all-day event. They're looking for volunteers even to help, but it's quite a big deal. And to get there, to get to where they're at, police officers from around the county have been passing out like a bus ticket to get there, and they will make sure you get home or back to wherever you call home. So it's this Saturday at Mount Pleasant.
Thank you.
If I may keep you
Sure.
speaking for a minute, I did want to mention this. The police department has taken a tremendous positive role in terms of the homeless issues here. Terry Gant, who ran the Father's Heart, died on New Year's Day. They have a new director already, and it's going to continue on. Her husband invited our police chief to do the eulogy, and it really moved me. He gave a great presentation, and they've been in continuous communication with each other. They developed a strong friendship, and they now have a police officer who is, I think, sole responsibility is being a liaison with the homeless community, and I think that'll be very, very helpful for not only the veterans who are homeless, but people that are mentally ill that are not veterans and so on. So
Yeah.
it's very, very positive. I was really pleased.
Well, and on this veteran stand down, that's what it's billed at. But the question came up immediately: it was how can they prove they're veterans, and if they can't, what do you do? And the answer is we're not turning anybody away.
Yeah, good.
Period. So
Very nice.
All right. So for my report, I also want to thank Phil. He came to the Hillendale Tower Vista Neighborhood Association meeting, which was on January 3rd, so right after the holidays and between the storms. And appreciated both you and Laura coming and sharing with our small group that we had there. And one thing, I probably should have brought this up under other general business, but something that has bothered me in the past, but then a picture was posted on Facebook that now it's bothering other people, is that Jacobs Plaza. Do you know where that is?
I do not.
Do you know where
No.
it's called Jacobs Plaza? It's at the Pioneer Center. It's where the flags are. Okay, and I don't know if you've noticed the condition of the flag poles in Jacobs Plaza. They're really sad, and the paint is peeling. Two of the flag poles have been vacant for quite some time, the one that's supposed to have the Oregon flag and the city flag. In fact, I hadn't seen one of the city flags for a long time. I know that there had one point been several of them made up. So the flag that's flying there, it's hard to tell its condition. I think it gets caught in the trees. So that is kind of another gateway to the city. And it's right kitty corner from the library, right across the street from the Ermatinger House and the historic church. And I notice it every time I go. And I've never said anything until somebody else posts it on Facebook and how sad it looks. So let's do what we can to make our city beautiful and point it out. Let people know. And right now, the potholes that are up on Molalla, in the Molalla Completion Project area, I'm trying to just hold my breath on those. But I know it's going to be a while. We've got the funding to get that done. It's going to be a multi-year project. But let people know and use OC request if something is really dangerous.
yeah, it
Use
works.
the OC request. I didn't think that the flagpole should have been on the OC request, but again, let's keep things beautiful and let people know of. And any other items, questions, anything else for the good of the order from Mr. Lewis?
Oh,
He gets the whole staff report back.
Yes.
so moving on to staff reports.
Staff reports.
Great. So recreation reports were sent out via email, and so you should have that. The other piece is the charter parks, which came up a little bit earlier in discussion. It's interesting, and I'm new to the organization and new to the community, so trying to familiarize myself with all of the properties that we own and maintain, and it's neat that educated folks as yourself that are very involved in the community to see all the little properties that we own and maintain. And for me, there's some intricacies to, as we were saying earlier, the promenade being owned by the city, the VFW itself, and the property directly underneath it being owned by the VFW. So we have a lot of, different pieces to the puzzle. So we're looking at charter parks. We have a handful of parks within our system that are charter parks. In the official charter, and we have quite a few other parks, somewhere in the mid-20s, that are not identified as charter parks. And so staff has gone through the process of identifying the parks that are, the parks that aren't, and then really getting down to the detail of what actually is the park, what's the legal description of the property. We have certain pieces that are owned by the city but aren't necessarily parks. We have different pieces that the deed says something but the official tax lot information says something else. And so looking at all those little details, I have a meeting scheduled for next week with the city attorney to kind of go through how we should phrase the language to adopt the parks as charter parks. So depending on, I did receive direction in January. I brought it forward to a work session and received direction to bring it forward to the commission. So depending on the language requirements, any additional follow-up information, some point in the upcoming couple of months, we'll be bringing forward to the commission the charter parks language for our first reading, second reading to be adopted. So sometime in the near future, that will hopefully go through, and I will obviously keep the group updated as we go through that process.
Thank
And
you.
we will get to see a list of what all those lands are, right?
Exactly.
Good.
Yep. So hopefully we'll have more details at the next meeting. That's it for staff reports. I will say, if there are things, and I know that I appreciate you bringing forward to me, Doug, the wanting to have the Ermitinger on future agenda items, and on the minutes for the most recent minutes from December, I did place a couple of the items that actually weren't discussed, possibly, but just to keep them as a running kind of list of items that I've heard over the last couple of months of things that we should bring forward for future agendas. So if there are things that come up between meeting dates that you'd like to have addressed in some form at PrAC, please do let me know and I can add that to the list. And as we're looking at how to position either discussions or presentations, I'll be working with the chair and vice chair on kind of timing and where we should be placing those in order for them to be discussed by the group.
Okay, so what we've heard so far in future agenda items, with the Ermitinger House, a report from the police on what they're seeing for activity in the park. I know the Girl Scouts are still waiting from their visioning that they had for Ladderette Park. They're still waiting on their final documentation from that visioning session, and they'll be bringing that back to us at some point. And was there something else that you'd heard?
The other items that I had listed, and again, this is kind of a compilation of agenda items that I'd heard over the last, I think, 2 months. that we had discussed. So budget consideration related to Parks and Recreation in January or February. So we talked about goals. Capital planning for maintenance of facilities. So the suggestion was to bring, pool staff 1 month, maybe Pioneer Center staff another month to talk about long-term planning and needs there. The Newell Creek project, Trailhead, presented by Metro. So bringing them forward again to kind of talk about current plan and process. Having a joint meeting between NRC and PRAC at some point in March or April was discussed at one point in the last couple of months. Glen Oak and Filbert Run discussion, which I think we kind of had today, but again, I had spoken with Sean, and I can speak with Joyce and Chris a little bit more about kind of direction and bringing that forward at one of the next meetings. Concept plan discussion with planning, and then the Cove project discussion with the developer, or a site visit in spring. So those are all pieces that had been brought up, and I just want to make sure that they are still priorities of the group, and or if we have additional items to add to that as we move forward.
Budget one's a big one for me.
Okay.
So it was good to kind of know where we're at.
Oh, you might,
Oh, and I think
if I might. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just, along with the budget, was you and I had the discussion, but I don't think the group has yet regarding why we didn't get the grant for Glen Oak.
Yeah. So the discussion Sean and I had was around the grant, why we did not get it, what we're looking at next steps moving forward. I did have a conversation with Kurt Lango, who worked with us on developing the master plan as well as putting together the materials for the grant. So we had a meeting earlier this week to discuss next steps for this year. The grant cycle closes April 1st, so staff at this point is looking at drafting information to put together a proposal for that grant cycle. So hopefully we will be successful. We'll be using the feedback forms that we did receive, and the conversation that Sean and I had was around wanting to make sure that we had all of those details kind of lined up so that I could come and present to the group on kind of where we're at, why we were denied, what we're hopefully doing to build a better case for funds to develop that park, and then next steps in that process. The other piece with that was looking at the STC budget, what we currently have sitting in that account, and what we are using those funds for moving forward, and how much of that will be used in the development of Glen Oak property if we are successful.
Okay. Doug.
The commission meeting came up to about possibly putting the park, that was a goal setting session, a parks maintenance fee on the utility bill, which I think is great. I'm just going to voice a concern. We put a pavement maintenance fee on the utility bill, then the police station on the utility bill, and then this. At some point, somebody's probably going to put out an initiative that's going to block our capability to do those kinds of things. It's happened in the past. And so I think there needs to be some real broad discussion to the public of why it's necessary to do so. Otherwise, I think it can backfire. That doesn't mean I'm opposed to parks maintenance fee on the utility bill, but it's a real concern I have that we may have something that backfires on us at one point.
Yeah, I think that the commission wants to make sure that we're very transparent in that process, and there were concerns from a number of the commissioners around the utility fees and the public's general support of putting something like that together again for another fee. And so I think, and again, what we're putting together from a staff perspective is what are our funding options, and then letting the commission decide. But just a kind of general feeling is that whatever they do decide, that it will probably go to the vote as opposed to being something that's put onto a utility fee without a public process. It's my general feeling, but that there were members that said that they would support. It sounded like going forward without. So I don't know. You know, we'll see what that process, how that plays out.
Well, and on that note, I agree with you, Doug. I mean, I want to be the first one to support parks, but I sat in a meeting Monday night where that group is looking at bond levies. So, you know, it's like, how many times can you keep getting hit? And there's almost a strategy as to what order. You know, if you're the last levy to get voted on, you're going to get voted no, most likely, regardless of how worthy it is. So there's a key strategy. Their comment I thought was very interesting. It says, unless you hire it, if you hire a PR firm, you have a good chance at passing your levy, and you have a 0% chance if you don't hire the PR firm, because none of the Oregon school bond levies have passed without a PR firm. That's what this was relating, but it's kind of interesting because you've got to get the message out correctly.
Any other things for the good of the order? Our next scheduled meeting is February 23rd, right here. So hope to see everybody here, and we are adjourned at 8:47 p.m.